Welcome to the Men on Purpose podcast, featuring dynamic conversations with emerging and established visionary men on purpose. Thanks for joining us today as we celebrate the men on purpose who are committed, creative, courageous changemakers, living their best, most fulfilling life possible. Now, here's the host of Men on Purpose, Ian Lobas.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Men on Purpose podcast, where we celebrate men on purpose and we provide our listeners with wisdom and immediately actionable steps to be more purposeful, powerful, and positive in their impact and their leadership. This is your host, Ian Lobas, and today we welcome a very special guest from the West Coast, Kyle Stanley. Now, Kyle has had his hand in a ton of different industries, from broadcasting to health and wellness, the sales game, as well as even owning his own business. All of those just stepping stones to his true calling, as he discovered in 2019, which was real estate investing. And I know Kyle is going to have a lot for all of our listeners here who are desiring to step out of that 9-to-5 or to step out of that thing that they're doing that they don't love and into something great. So since then, Kyle's actually been able to create a financially free life that's allowed him to stop stressing about his bank account and start focusing on traveling, giving back to his community, and developing relationships that will last a lifetime. I know that sounds amazing to me. I know it sounds amazing to all of you. Kyle, welcome to Men on Purpose.
Ian, thanks so much for having me, man. I've been looking forward to meeting you and being on this show.
Well, it's our pleasure. So let's jump right into it. You know, the thing that pops out for me is, in service to our listeners, our audience who are sitting in their cars or in their homes right now saying, all right, you must be special. Like Kyle's got to have something. Did he have some cash? What was his springboard? And I want to start from the beginning. So what was it about all those different jobs, those different industries? Why'd you hop so much? What was going on?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a person who really enjoys change. So that also means I get bored very easily. So, one of those things that I really get out of all those industries was one of those things that I was excited about at that time, but was it a true lifelong passion? The only thing I really thought was a lifelong passion of mine was when I got into sports broadcasting. I thought I was going to be the next play-by-play guy for the Chicago Cubs. And I followed baseball my entire life, grew up with Stanley, Mark McGwire, all that. And then I got in that industry and I was like, wow, this actually kind of sucks. You've got to travel 6 months out of the year. So you really can't have a family. All these people who are around you. I started in the news, which sports is the redheaded stepchild of the news. So
Right.
It was one of those things where I was just wow, I'm really in a negative atmosphere. And I kind of felt myself just going down this spiral of not being around the kind of people that I wanted to build my life around. Now, with that being said, I've had some really incredible friends that I got from that, but the majority of that industry, I didn't feel like I really had what I wanted to stay there long term. And along the way, with all these things I've done, I've learned that I really like helping people. I like freedom. I like to be able to know that I can make decisions without having to worry about what other people think or having to answer to a boss. I definitely learned that early on that I did not want to answer to a boss. But it was all these little things kind of combined in one. Sales, helping people, being able to use the sports broadcasting background. Now that I have a podcast and YouTube channel, I bring that in. It was all these things kind of combined into one. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing was true financial freedom. Everything else that you look at that preaches financial freedom, I just didn't really see it or believe in it until I saw real estate. And since then, been on fire about it.
Love that. What was the break point where you just said, all right, enough, I'm out. I've got to make this leap now. And then I'm going to ask you to walk us through that after you answer that question. But what was that break point where you just had to make a decision?
And getting into real estate, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll go back to 2013 when the very first time I ever heard the term passive income, I was 26 years old, which is a crime in itself. I really for me, man, now that I've found true passive income, I want to go back and I want to like actually get in part of these entrepreneur clubs in these high schools and like just go and talk to people about passive income, because it just wasn't anything that I learned growing up. So when I first learned about that, I got into direct sales, a network marketing company in health and wellness. And, it was this like dream of make money in your sleep, help a lot of people. The people you help today will be paying you 20, 30, 40 years down the road. And it was this whole like carrot in front of me the whole time. And I'm not saying that can't be possible for other people, but for me, it really just didn't fit my skill sets. And so it was about 4 years into that where I just kept bringing on new people, losing people, bringing on new people, losing people. And it was just this cycle of I felt like I was on a hamster wheel of trying to get to financial freedom. And my dad ended up being diagnosed with bone cancer in 2016, went into hospice in 2018, and it was at home hospice. And I called up all my teammates that were in that business, and I told them, hey, family's first right now. And basically within 2 months, like that income was almost completely gone. And I was like, man, this whole thing that I thought was passive income really wasn't.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I really just like had to think what will provide me with the lifestyle that if something like this happens, if I have a family member that is sick, if a freaking pandemic happens, like what's going to actually protect me?
Right.
And I just kept on getting drawn back to real estate. And so I started listening to the Cardone Zone with Grant Cardone. I started hearing about multifamily investing, and I soon realized like, okay, this is great, but I don't have the money to get into apartments. So I just kept on educating myself for 4 months, man. I just listened to podcasts. And I got more and more excited, but I just got more and more confused about how do I get started. And finally, January 6th, 2019, I said yes to real estate. I remember it because it was just basically 10 days before my dad passed away. And it was 1 day before I started a brand new job in sales that really I wasn't convinced was going to be the thing either. But I finally was just like, this is it. And I was so convinced that I was scared about how convinced I was that I brought my mom into this day 3 of this seminar and was like, please tell me that like I'm crazy and then I'm just being sold by these people. And 2 hours into it, she's like, I think you'd be crazy if you didn't do this. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing this thing. And since then, haven't looked back.
That's awesome, man. I love that. So now we've got your big, the piece that shifted in your life because look, let's face it. I mean, most people need a big shift to actually shift or some kind of big event. So once you did that, I mean, it's only been a year and a couple months if you think about it, and you've been really successful at it. Like, where did it go from there? So let's talk about the journey. Because again, our audience, there's going to be people in our audience that want to do this, right? And they need somebody who's like you, who just did it, who lived a very normal life, and this is what it looked like when I pulled the trigger. So I want you to kind of talk about that for a little bit. Is what did that look like? Like January 6th, 2019, you're like, I'm doing this. Yeah. And what does pulling the trigger look like?
Yeah. Well, first of all, to like your point there of me not being special, I really wasn't. I mean, up until this deciding moment, the most I'd ever made in a year was $75,000.
Yeah.
I had basically about $20,000 in the bank. So $20,000 is not going to buy you a house. No.
Well, in some parts of the country, it will.
Yes, not any house that I want to deal with. I'll say that. And so I just the number one thing that got me really excited about real estate was the fact that you could be resourceful and network, and you could be successful. And so those were two of my biggest strengths. I knew that if I didn't have the answer, I could find the answer. And I knew that I love developing relationships. I love providing value to people. I love helping people. And that's what networking is. Networking is not going to some like networking deal and giving your story and hoping people bring you a bunch of business. Networking is giving value to people. And so I saw those things and said, I can do this. So I just got a couple mentors paid for some mentors. That was a big thing.
Yep.
And asked them, what do I do? And they told me, you need to put in offers. You need to put in offers all the time. I don't care if it's on the MLS. I don't care if you're throwing out marketing. You have to be putting in offers. So the first 2 months, I said my goal is 3 to 5 offers a week. And I sucked in the beginning. I mean, I was horrible. It was taking me an hour and a half just to figure out what I was going to offer on a house.
Right.
Today, I can do that in 2 minutes. But in the beginning, it was like, man, and it was a grind too. That's the thing. It was like I was getting done with the sales job that I just started at 4:00, going home and evaluating 2 or 3 houses, and it was taking me another 3 to 4.5 hours.
Wow.
But I stayed strong to that. And 2.5 months into it, on February, or it was like the end of February, I got my first offer accepted, and I was like, oh shit, what do I do now? And so it was one of those moments where I just called up my mentor and was like, tell me what to do. And that was the cool thing, is I learned that if I would do the work, I would have a way to be able to find out what to do next.
Yeah.
And it was that confidence of doing that first deal. It basically, I mean, we didn't make a lot. I made $6,100 on a flip. It was one that I raised the money and paid back the lender after it was sold, and really had very little amount left. It was a deal that I would not do today, but it gave me the confidence that it worked and I could go out and do it again. And it showed other people that I was real too. It showed people that I wasn't faking it, that I was actually going to do this thing. And before I knew it, people were bringing me deals. And fast forward to today, we've done a lot of deals in the first year and a half. And my mind has been really open up to so many different ways of real estate that, especially right now, everything's just about adjusting, and we're just looking for new deals everywhere.
So, do you keep any of those? I know you've got short-term rentals. Do you have any long-term rentals?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So every rental currently that I own is either only short-term or is a combination of a long-term and short-term, meaning there's multiple units on the property. One's a long-term, one's a short-term.
Got
it. We just picked up 2 this month for subject to deals, and those subject to deals will be in areas that are not short-term rental friendly. So we are going to just do those as long-term rentals. But yeah, I mean, basically, to answer your question, Ian, like my main focus is building up my short-term rentals business. That is what truly creates the passive income for me. And I know if I get a new deal, I just added at least $6,000 to $10,000 of passive income for the entire year, which is really exciting. But then I like that bonus money of going and doing a flip or doing a wholesale and getting that big, $10, $15, $20, $25,000 check with a little bit more active effort in there.
Yeah, I get that. And are you doing this in Sacramento, or are you doing this outside of Sacramento?
Well, I'm in Fresno, so
Fresno's
a little bit. Yeah, Fresno's a little bit south of Sacramento, and so all my short-term rentals are all in Fresno.
Okay.
And then pretty much anything within like a 45-minute radius, I'll use as a real estate investment strategy, whether it's a flip or a wholesale or anything like that.
That makes sense. Now, so I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk to you about the importance of mentorship, and I want to talk to you about trusting yourself, facing that fear. Like, that's what we're going to talk about when we get back. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Cool. All right. So we're going to be right back with Kyle Stanley, Fearless Flipper, Fearless Investing. It was Fearless Flipping.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Be right back with Kyle Stanley from Fearless Investing. All right. I want to thank all of our listeners who are downloading, reading, and reviewing our awesome show in Australia. That's right. We're downloaded in 97 countries, and Australia is one of them. And we've got a ton of listeners in Australia. So shout out to you guys, Australia. And also want to let you know that if you want to find out more about Kyle or any of our other guests, you go to mentalpurposepodcast.com and /guest name. Today's guest, obviously Kyle Stanley. So mentalpurposepodcast.com /Kyle Stanley to get all the details. We'll be right back in a moment with Kyle Stanley. All right, everybody, we are back with our guest, Kyle Stanley. And remember, anything you want to know about Kyle or any of our other guests can be found at mentalpurposepodcast.com /Kyle Stanley, Stanley. And remember, you can also find out about Kyle or any of our other guests in the show notes. So again, mentalpurposepodcast.com/Kyle Stanley, or check out those show notes. All right. So Kyle, before we went on break, we were talking about the importance of mentorship. And I want to talk to you about that because you mentioned that the mentor was like you had some pivotal pieces in there, but the mentorship was a crucial step in when you were scared, let's say, or when you were not confident or not trusting, you had that mentor to fall back on. So I want to talk a little bit about the mentor stuff, but I also want to talk about how you face those fears, how you were able to trust yourself, be confident with your inability, because let's face it, you had an inability. You were just learning the skills. So let's talk about that. Mentorship. What would you recommend for somebody?
Yeah, well, first of all, now that I'm mentoring people on especially short-term rentals, what I've just really learned is that, it's such a cliche, but it's so true. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, because I was dying to pay someone, honestly, to get me to this free lifestyle. And the first one that came along was a business or an organization called Fortune Builders. They really painted the picture for how you can flip and wholesale and all this stuff. And it was $30,000. And I was like, holy cow, that's way more than I wanted to, but I was so ready that it really didn't matter how much. So it could have been $1,000, it could have been $100,000, and I would have found a way, because to me, that was the way to get the help. And then shortly after that, I found other mentors that didn't charge me, but I like I said before, I always want to give as much value as possible. So you asked the question, if someone wants mentorship, you either got to pay with money, you got to pay with value. And now that I'm teaching other people short-term rentals, I also teach them just overall life skills, and one of them is providing value. And that's a question I get a lot is, well, how am I expected to provide value to a landlord or to a real estate investor if I've never done any deals? And that's not what value is. Value goes beyond that. Value could be as little as buying a cup of coffee. It could be as much as writing a handwritten letter, sharing how much you appreciate that person. Before you and I just got on this show, we were talking about how you're looking for, a missing piece of your business. And I know someone else in Baltimore, Maryland, and it can be just connecting people together. I think you're, again, not to be cliche, but your net worth really is equal to your network. And the more that you can continue to build that and help people, the more that you're going to be able to find more mentors in your life that will do things for you for free, because you provide so much value to them. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, man, that's a really great statement. I'm glad you brought that up, because so many people ask me the same thing. Like, how do I get, they'll ask me about coaching, and I'll say, well, these are the rates. And they'll say, well, I can't do that right now. I'll say, great. Then, you have to pay to play in some capacity. And I take people on that can't pay in monetary sense, but they're doing stuff like maybe they're analyzing deals for me, or maybe they're doing something over here and they're working in my business with me. And I'm saying, cool, you do this, and I'll trade you a little bit of coaching or whatever it is. You're totally right on that value piece. I love that you brought that up.
I've got a friend of mine here in town who's a wholesaler, and he's going to charge you a few $1,000 if you want to get mentorship, or you can tell him, hey, give me your list, I'll cold call for you. Yeah. And he'll actually pay you to be a cold caller, and you'll learn all of his systems and everything, but while he's paying you like that. But again, that person's providing a value back to the wholesaler of helping them find deals. Yep. So it has to be value in either monetary or a service.
Yeah. You got to be creative, and you've got to think. You actually don't need to think. Don't think about who's tried it before. This might not work. Just go for it. The worst someone's going to say is no. And most successful people, and I know this from, jumping into a personal development circle very, at the deep end, you got to be the squeaky wheel if you want to get the most amount of help and the most amount of attention. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, people pay attention. Most very successful people, wealthy people, they want people that'll learn from them. Most of them. Some of them are just selfish, but most people want to turn around and help.
Yes.
So don't think about, oh, has somebody tried that? Oh, what if they say no? Just go for it. The worst they're going to say is no. And if you do something real ballsy, They're going to thank you and they're going to celebrate you for giving it a shot. They're probably going to take notice of you even more because you just went for it, you know?
You know what's crazy? The number one thing you can do when you finally have the time and attention from a mentor, it seems so simple. Do what they tell you to do.
Right.
The number of people that won't do what a mentor who is making, it doesn't even matter. It could be $100,000. It could be $100 million. The fact is they've made more money than you doing this thing. You have their time and attention right now, and they're giving you the gold. And now you turn around and you either get scared of doing it or you make up excuses of why you're not able to do that versus them. And you know what that mentor is going to do? They're going to ask you, hey, did you do what I told you? And when you say no, they're going to say, I don't care how much you're spending on that steak dinner that you want to take me to. If you're not going to do the work, I don't want to spend my time with you.
Dude, yes.
Yeah, it's as simple as that.
Another great point. I had some mentees in my business a couple years ago begged me to just be in my orbit. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying, like, this was an example. And I remember saying, here's what I'd like you to do. And they never did it. Mm-hmm. And then I just started pulling back. And they were like, hey, what's the deal? Why aren't you helping us? I'm like, because guys, if you can't help yourself, I can't help you. There's nothing I can do. And listen, I've had that happen to me with mentors that I went for, that I wanted to be in their orbit. So real quick, man, I want to talk about fear and trusting, or your instincts, or your confidence, or something, just having that, mix of education and just your intuition that, yes, you can do this.
So I guess what you're asking me is just knowing when to trust your gut.
Yeah. So like when you were at that seminar, you brought your mom in for some additional support. She said, hey, I think you should go for it. I've been to those seminars. They're extremely catchy, right? Mm-hmm. And I know what you're thinking at the time is like, man, this sounds really good to be true. It's like very expensive. So how do I guess it'll work. And at that moment, how do you, without the salesy stuff, without the pitch, how did you say to yourself, I got this. I know I can do this?
Well, number one, I had a huge desire and a need. They say nothing changes. I had been through so many different things that I just was like 99% bought into, but that 1% was really holding me back from being great at it. I can be really good at anything. A lot of people even ask me like, hey, aren't you going to be a dad? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. Like, I know I'd be a great dad, but it doesn't mean I have to be a dad. I know I'd be probably really good at being a teacher, but it doesn't mean I have to be a teacher. Yeah. But that was kind of what I was with a lot of these other things. I know I'm a great salesman. I know I can do, the whole like videography stuff. And I've done all those things. I knew I could be great at them, but I just wasn't fully bought in. And when I sat down and I had been researching for 4 months, I already was bought into the idea of real estate. I just didn't know in what capacity. And then when it was staring me in the face with all the answers that I had been asking questions to, that was when I really felt comfortable with it. And I learned from someone at that seminar who's now a close friend of mine how to make really big decisions in your life. And I apologize if I don't get all 7 of these, but he gave me 6 ways to make a really big decision in your life, which is more of an analytical way of trusting your gut. But at the same time, I believe it is better than trusting your gut. Let me see if I can get all. So he gave me 6. I added a 7th one that I'll share with you. But basically, is it moral? Is it ethical? Is it logical? Will it make you money? What was the other one? Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Was another question.
Willingness.
Yes. I'm missing one other one, but the one that I added on is, are you okay with the worst case scenario? If you're okay with the worst case scenario and you love the best case scenario, then what's the worst that can happen? Basically, you're just asking yourself, what is the worst that can happen?
Right.
And so I looked at all those and I saw real estate and I said, is it logical? Yeah. People are making tons of money with real estate. Will it make me money? Yeah. I'm seeing exactly how it will right now. I see the numbers. Is it logic? Is it ethical? Yes. As long as I do this with what, is ethical, and I don't try to screw people over like some wholesalers or people will do. As long as I take a good ethical approach, then yes. Is it moral? That was the other one. Is it moral? That was the one I was missing. Is it within my beliefs? Yes, it is. Is it legal? Yes, it's legal. It's 100% legal. People are doing it all over the place. Right. And then did I want to do it? Yes, I proved myself the last 4 months. Yes, I wanted to do this. Worst case scenario, the worst case scenario is that I pay these guys $30,000 and I learn a lot and I get a couple properties that do absolutely nothing.
Yep.
And I gave it a shot. Okay, losing $30,000 sucks, but possibly financial freedom, what I've been searching for. It didn't even like, there was no like, I wonder if I should. Right. It was like, no, duh. Like, is $30,000 worth potentially having the lifestyle that you've always wanted? Yes, it is. And so that was really the way that I was able to trust my gut.
You brought up the willingness in there. That's something I use in my businesses all the time is, you could have the skills, you could have the mindset, you could have the desire, you could have everything. However, if you don't actually have the willingness to do the work, not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And willingness might be one of the most important things besides like moral and ethical and legal. Once you have those, it's like, cool. Can this company get me the skills? Yes. Cool. Am I willing to actually do the work? You know what? I don't know if I am. Okay, well then take a step back. But if you're willing to do the work, whatever it takes, not just the work in front of you, but whatever it takes, the late nights, the early mornings, the weekends, whatever, then you go for it.
Yep.
That's a great
point. And I just had recently, a couple of weeks ago, I had a very similar situation where it marked off all of the other check boxes. But when it came down to, am I willing to do this? Do I want to do this? I just didn't really want to, even though what I was looking at in the face was an opportunity to create possibly a 7-figure passive business. I just, at the end of the day, was like, I'm not going to be excited about this.
You're talking about the MLM?
Not excited about it, then what's the point?
You're talking about the MLM?
This was a couple of weeks ago. I was presented with an opportunity. Yeah. It was another MLM deal, but it was in life insurance, and I just, man, I was excited for a bit, but then I was like, you know what? I just don't know if this is really what I want to do. And I just decided I need to continue to focus on exactly what I've been so passionate about the last year and a half. So that was the first for me too, was just saying no to an opportunity because as you saw, I've jumped from a lot of different things so long story short, that's exactly how I think you can trust your gut.
Fantastic. Well explained. Because look, I mean, there's so many people out there that are, look, we're going through COVID at this time, right? And there's so many people out there that before this whole thing happened and they were sitting at home, they were sitting in their desk, they were on the road, 50 weeks a year. And they were like, man, it would just be so nice if I could have this other opportunity. If I had just one opportunity, I can make this thing happen. And I like what you said about there was an opportunity that was presented in front of you and you saw what could be from it. And you followed that formula that said, you know what, though, I'm just not going to, I don't want it. I just I want the result of it. I just don't want the work and like that path. I'm okay with the real estate path. That's really amazing because so many people chase shiny objects, myself, super guilty.
Just about every entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, of course. And you kind of have to. And that, I interviewed my dad, first episode of this season. And we talked about that. Like, you got to jump in. He always taught me, like, just keep rolling, fail, fall, get punched, hit the ground, get hit by it, whatever. Just keep rolling forward. You'll find that thing that you slot into and you can put your everything into, and it doesn't take everything from you. And you really enjoy it. And that's what it sounds like real estate has done for you.
It has. And, what I can really thank this whole COVID thing for is, we were on track for just a phenomenal year. And obviously with everything that happened, a lot of things just came to a halt. We're still going to have a great year. But what this really taught me was, man, if everything gets taken from me tomorrow, this whole like sitting in front of a TV and watching Netflix because I have no hobbies because I put so much effort into, into my business. It was just like, man, that like, what's the point of building all this if I'm not going to use it for more than things that will only make me happy for a second. Why am I not putting this into something that will fulfill me? Like traveling, going and just being able to give back to the community, whether that's financially or, we've got a little pit bull, rescue place that I want to go start, volunteering my time to. And it's those things that I'm like, I don't need to be the best. I don't need to be making $1 million. I need to be making about $10,000 of passive income a month to live this kind of lifestyle.
Yep.
And I'm basically there. So like, there's the growth that you want to make, but now I know I'm doing it because it's for the lifestyle that I want, not for the lifestyle that someone else wants or what I'm supposed to be following. And I have to be the best. I don't have to be the best. I just have to be the best for the type of lifestyle that I want.
Yes.
And I think that's what this has really helped me to realize.
Fantastic point to end on. Fantastic point. I'm so glad you made that. Your lifestyle, the lifestyle that you want to live, not the dream fantasy on Instagram. That motivates you. That's what you want. Hit it, roll it. But how much time do you spend chasing that lifestyle and not living the life today? I'm so glad we ended on that. So listen, that wraps us up.
Perfect.
30 minutes down, maybe. So look, I want to thank Kyle Stanley for bringing so much value to today's episode. And obviously, most importantly, or equally as importantly, I want to thank all of you, our loyal listeners, for tuning in each week and supporting this great show. Especially since I've taken over, we've had just so much love and support. And I'm very, very, very grateful. Remember, you can go to menonpurposepodcast.com/Kyle Stanley to find out more about Kyle and all the cool stuff he's doing. And you can, feel free, comment, and leave suggestions on our Facebook or our Instagram account. Remember, thanks for tuning in, and we all have a choice. Choose to be on purpose.
Thanks again for listening to the Men on Purpose podcast, where our mission is to educate, elevate, and activate every man to truly live their best, most fulfilling life possible. To find out more about the podcast, our guests, or becoming a man on purpose, visit menonpurposepodcast.com and choose your most purposeful path forward.